Hello and welcome to The Rational Live. Look at this, I'm 4 minutes early, even though I'm 30 minutes late, but what's up? Big show today. Actually, sort of a laid back. The stories I have this week are kind of laid back. I'm not covering Biden's, what Biden has done this week too much, just because honestly there has been a lot of it and I haven't been able to read all of it, so I need some time over the weekend to catch up on that. But before I get to a quick breakdown of what to expect in today's show, let me first remind you, of course, therationalnational.com/join. It is behind the chat. Nope, that's wrong. There we go. That's the Patreon page. Help support the show. You can also join on YouTube. Send in super chats, of course, also very helpful. And yeah. This helps me do what I do. There we go. Now it's on top. What else? There's something in the shot. What is that? Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's it. So now let me give you the breakdown of what's happening today. And of course, I'll take super chats throughout. Also, yeah, that's right. PayPal link below the video. All the links to help support the show below the video. So in case you want to help me out, there you go. But let me give you a quick little breakdown, little preview of today's show. Chuck Schumer says the word erection. I'll tell you in what context and why it's important that he said it. Maybe not the word, but important in context of what he was saying generally. Also, Newsmax slams Biden for his identity politics in the decor of his Oval Office. I'll show you that ridiculous clip. Also, AOC ditches Biden's inauguration to join a picket line. I didn't cover this earlier. I want to get to covering this story and also give you a clip of her discussing it on CNN. And also, this great clip coming up of Tim Pool. I don't often cover these people on the right or whatever the hell Tim Pool considers himself to be, but he's definitely on the right. But this is just a hilarious clip. I have to show you. You'll see what it is. And also, a couple of other stories I didn't really prep properly, but I will still do them. Trump, a year ago, I'm going to show you what Trump said about COVID a year ago and where we are today. And also, I'm not sure if I'll do this one or not, but I'll mention it. Maybe I'll just play the clip. Jim Clyburn attempts to speak for progressive voters. I have not yet watched this clip, but maybe we'll watch it together and see what it's about. So, there you go. Let me properly start the show with the first story. Again, reminder, I'll take super chats throughout and also near the end. When I run out of super chats, I'll take some random chats from the normie chat as well. All right. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is ready for Trump's impeachment trial. Now, before I get to the clip, I want to remind you of course, what Mitch McConnell is trying to do or tried to do before this. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to propose delay of Trump impeachment trial. Now, a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, it appeared that Mitch McConnell was a little more open to convicting Donald Trump in the Senate, meaning that at the very least he would not be able to run for president again. But ultimately, it really is about holding people accountable and using the only tools available to do so. So the impeachment and conviction of Donald Trump for the incitement of the riot on the Capitol is an obvious. But now, after floating the idea that Mitch McConnell may back the conviction of Trump, he is now, of course, gone back and realized that the majority of his base still supports Donald Trump. In fact, the majority of his base still believe that Donald Trump won the election. That's how far out these voters are. So because of that, of course, Mitch McConnell has now been trying to delay the trial, because the more he delays it, the harder it'll be to convict him. Just pretty much when it comes to anything with Donald Trump, the longer that time moves on, the more and more people forget about it. And I think that's kind of what Mitch McConnell was hoping here. But Chuck Schumer did not budge, to my surprise. In fact, Chuck Schumer came out today and said this. And there's also, as you're going to see, a little slip up near the end. But apart from the little slip up, as you're going to, I think, clearly notice, what he's saying here is exactly right.
Now, as I mentioned, the Senate will also conduct a second impeachment trial for Donald Trump. I've been speaking to the Republican leader about the timing and duration of the trial, but make no mistake, a trial will be held in the United States Senate, and there will be a vote on whether to convict the president. I have spoken to Speaker Pelosi, who informed me that the articles will be delivered to the Senate on Monday. Now, I've heard some of my Republican colleagues argue that this trial would be unconstitutional because Donald Trump is no longer in office, an argument that has been roundly repudiated, debunked by hundreds of constitutional scholars, left, right, and center, and defies basic common sense. It makes no sense whatsoever that a president or any official could commit a heinous crime against our country and then be permitted to resign so as to avoid accountability and a vote to disbar them from future office. Makes no sense. Regardless, the purveyors of this unusual argument are trying to delay the inevitable. The fact is, the House will deliver the article of impeachment to the Senate. The Senate will conduct a trial of the impeachment of Donald Trump. It will be a full trial. It will be a fair trial. But make no mistake, there will be a trial, and when that trial ends, senators will have to decide if they believe Donald John Trump incited the insurrection against the United States.
All right. I have to obviously mention here, just to get it out of the way, he said erection. It's not a big deal. It's just a little funny moment, but it's worth mentioning. Now, this is fantastic. They're actually moving ahead as quickly as possible on the impeachment trial. The article being sent to the Senate on Monday. This is exactly what they should be doing. Now, they need 67 votes to convict, meaning you need about 17 Republicans on board. I don't think so. I mean, it would be awesome if they did do that, if there were 17 of those votes. I don't think they exist. I think they understand where their base is, at least right now, and they're not willing to take any bets on the future and assume that this Trump fervor is going to go away. It's going to continue existing, at least in some form. And at this point, these Republicans have to basically continue to appease their completely insane base. And to be, look, I don't want to sound like I'm giving lawmakers a pass here, because honestly, it's on the lawmakers. It's on the Republicans to be forthright with what Trump did, with how horrible the man is, with how horrible, by the way, their own positions are on many things. But this is the issue. A lot of these politicians are in it for themselves. They don't honestly care about the implications of what they do. They just care about self-preservation. So they're going to do whatever they can to stay in the position that they have. And by continuing to support Trump, that is one way for them to try and maintain their own power. Now, it's also worth mentioning here that I think part of the reason this is going on so quickly, this is happening so quickly, is because their lives were at risk. People in Congress, their lives were on the line. So this is why, I mean, if you compare this to the first impeachment of Donald Trump, that took months. This is happening in less than a month. And I think a big part of that is because this was a direct threat on their own lives. At the same time, it's also the very end of Trump's presidency, so there's less of a political calculation around this, because he was going to leave anyways. So impeaching him for the obvious incitement of this riot, it just makes total sense from every angle. So it's good to see that, but also I think pressure from progressives, pressure from the base, and even pressure from the media is playing into this. I watched a bit of Morning Joe this morning, just out of curiosity to see what they're saying right now, and they are hypercritical of Democrats that are right now unwilling to hold Republicans accountable. Essentially saying, I mean, they had Anand Giadardas on. In fact, I should have brought the clip up, but I didn't find it. But they had him on discussing that the only way to truly heal the country is to hold the people accountable, the Republican lawmakers that helped to incite this riot, that helped to create the destruction when it comes to the pandemic and the economic destruction that people are in. The only way to hold, or the only way to heal, is to hold people accountable. You don't heal by uniting with fascists. So when even mainstream media is pushing this idea that Republicans need to be held accountable, then this is why you see a lot of otherwise moderate or conservative Democratic lawmakers fall in line with the idea of impeaching and hopefully going further to, say, try and expel maybe Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley for also being a part of this entire thing. So we'll see how far this goes, but at the very least, it's good to see that Democrats are pushing for the impeachment trial as soon as possible. All right. Now, so I'm going to do what I did last week. Go to a quick little be right back as I prep the next story. So I feel like if I'm just sitting here in silence prepping the story, it's kind of boring. But I got some music that people dig, some copyright-free tunes in the be right back interstitial. So I will actually, before I be right back, let me grab a couple chats here. Exoplanet Research says Trump fell on a porcupine. It deflated his ego. Lena Dell hates the clock. says, congratulations on your new little one. Oh, thank you. Yes. From now on, whenever I'm late to anything, like I was to the stream today, I'm just going to say, oh, sorry, I have a kid. I had to take care of him. I have to raise my child. So that's why I'm late. I never thought I would have a child to be able to use that excuse, but now I'll be using that as often as I can. So anyways, I will be right back as I prep this next story. All right, that prepping literally took one click of the mouse as I realized this is only a clip video I have next. So let's get started. Newsmax hosts spent several minutes critiquing Biden's decor in the Oval Office. Now, Newsmax, in case you don't know, this is the more right-wing conservative network compared to Fox News. They are the ones that still were saying that Trump won the election basically up until Biden's inauguration, and until they had legal threats from certain companies that they were claiming had rigged the election. But yeah, so this is an ultra-conservative network. Here you're going to see two hosts on Newsmax in hilarious absurdity discussing the decor of Joe Biden's Oval Office.
One thing that's getting a whole lot of attention right now is Joe Biden's Oval Office redesign. Every president basically does this. He just redesigned the Oval Office in his image.
I'm going to turn this up a little bit for you live people. Sorry, it's my own little... I'm a little obsessed with audio levels.
One thing that's getting a whole lot of attention right now is Joe Biden's Oval Office redesign. Every president basically does this. He just redesigned the Oval Office in his image.
And we're seeing some pictures of that. Here they are right now. First off, we're seeing Bill Clinton's carpet brought back in.
I was going to say, you went with the blue.
The dark blue carpet. That was the most notable change at first, but it's once you start looking closer, Rob.
Take a look. We've got FDR in the middle. We've got Washington, Lincoln, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson. He apparently got rid of the Andrew Jackson painting. And President Trump liked the Andrew Jackson stuff because Andrew Jackson was a populist outsider who became president. He had a bad legacy with the Trail of Tears. 4,000 Indians died, of course. But FDR, Japanese internment, every president has got something they're not proud of. But the left-leaning media yesterday was like, oh, yeah, but Andrew Jackson was a terrible, terrible president. It's just it's because he was a populist, an outsider, like Donald J. Trump.
And that wasn't the only change that got people talking. The removal of the Winston Churchill bust. We saw a second ago of actually what's replaced there. But that removal was something a lot of people are talking about. British politician Nigel Farage not too happy, tweeting that the media reports that the bust of Churchill is removed. He says if this is true, it's a slap in the face to the British and any prospects of good relations. Rob, if you remember, that bust was removed when former President Barack Obama was in office, got a lot of people across the pond fired up, and Trump brought it back, and now it's gone again.
Yeah, and we have a special relationship with Great Britain, and that's certainly something that is important to us in our heritage and in our country moving forward. But there's only so much room in this office. I did think it was interesting. So President Biden keeps the Martin Luther King Jr. bust in there. Donald Trump had it in there as well. But the media, they can't keep their hands off Trump. They said, yeah, but he moved it into a different, and they said a corner.
And we also have Cesar
Chavez.
Wait,
hold on. How's there a corner? The room's a circle. It's an oval. There's no corners in the Oval Office. And then, yeah, Cesar Chavez. I thought that was Bobby Kennedy, but no, it's Cesar Chavez.
Cesar Chavez, surrounded by family photos of Biden and his family. You know, they're allowed to redesign the room however they want, but it is always interesting to see what, of course, gets changed. We now have a bust of Rosa Parks in the Oval Office as well.
Yeah. Well, it's the administration of identity politics starting their second full day today. So we expected this, but the criticism will not stop for the next 4 years of our previous president, and it was on full display yesterday.
Well, it's the administration of identity politics. Yes, filling a room with paintings of a bunch of white men, that's not identity politics. A Republican Party made up of 98% white people, not identity politics. What is identity politics is recognizing Rosa Parks, the mother of the civil rights movement. That's identity politics. Really, these people are insane. And then I gotta just bring up the Andrew Jackson comments. He was a populist. He was an outsider. He instituted the Indian Removal Act, forced displacement of over 50,000 Native Americans, the slaughter of tens of thousands, which he even mentioned there, the Trail of Tears. Like he knows this, but still he summarizes Andrew Jackson as, but above all else, he was a populist. Yes, let's ignore the slaughter of tens of thousands of Native Americans. Let's ignore that he strongly supported slavery, estimated to have over 300 slaves, including child slaves. And he also beat them, obviously, not just privately, but also in public beatings. But no, above all else, he was just like Trump, a populist. I mean, we are now in a new era of conservative commentary, because they no longer have to pretend that Trump is great. They no longer have to always, defend Trump. They now have to essentially invent things to attack Biden with. Now, if you're somebody who's progressive on the left, there is plenty to be critical of Joe Biden on. He still, in the middle of a pandemic, does not support single-payer healthcare, not even supporting a public option right now. But the right is not going to complain about that. They're going to complain about all the symbolism, all the made-up cultural BS that they're going to create, the identity politics of Joe Biden's Oval Office, having Rosa Parks there. So we are entering a completely new era of comedy when it comes to right-wing commentary of the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. And honestly, I'm just looking forward to it for the laughs. All right. And I haven't even checked out what Fox News has been saying. I saw some headlines I saw something about Fox News being ridiculous in terms of how they're criticizing Joe Biden, which, look, of course, as I said, plenty to criticize Joe Biden on if you're on the left. If you're conservative, I don't know what the hell. Like, really, what do you have in terms of policy? Joe Biden is largely right there with you. He really is doing the bare minimum when it comes to a lot. And I mean, you're seeing all the praise he's getting. And look, not to take away from what he's doing either, because a lot of what Biden's doing right now is great. Rescinding the Keystone XL pipeline permit, getting back into the Paris Climate Accord, taking a serious approach to COVID-19, and actually, listening to scientists when it comes to the pandemic. Those are all fantastic, great things, but that is the bare minimum. This is one of the issues with having Trump in charge for 4 years. It lowers the bar to what is acceptable, to the point that Joe Biden, the bare minimum that Joe Biden is doing, seems like an incredible thing. But in any other world, it would just be the bare minimum. But Trump has put a lot of the media, and honestly, a lot of people on the left, and like myself sometimes, we can get lost. It's easy to get lost in all of Trump's BS and remind ourselves that what Biden's doing is just the bare minimum. But because of Trump's 4 years, it put a lot of people into a insane asylum coma in a way. All right. Are there any more super chats? There are. So I'll grab these and then I'll go to a quick be right back break to prep the next story. Liam says, oh yeah, these are some nice royalty-free tunes. Thank you, Liam. Mr. Sir says, yesterday was the 21st of the 21st, was the 21st day of the 21st year of the 21st century. Yes, actually, I think I saw Marianne Williamson tweet that out. Really, really cool. Samantha Sider says, keep up the good work, David. Best of luck with the baby. Thank you, Samantha. All right. Little pause there while I prep the next story. This may even... Actually, this one takes some prep. So maybe a minute or so. I will be right back. All right, I'm back. There we go. All right, I see some more super chats coming in. I'll grab those after this next story. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did not attend Joe Biden's inauguration, instead deciding to join a picket line, joining the Hunts Point produce workers who were on strike for simply wanting to get a $1 pay raise. So let me show you a clip of her here on CNN with Chris Cuomo discussing why she was there.
You were up where in Hunts Point with workers fighting for minimum wage increase, mandatory minimum wage in the South Bronx. Why? Do you hate Joe Biden? Why were you there?
No, you know, in New York City, 60% of all of the produce in New York City and in the region comes through the Hunts Point produce market. And these workers that have been risking their lives every single day this past year in the pandemic, who are loading the trucks, getting this produce so that, you know, putting food on our tables, are struggling to feed their own kids. And they're asking for something very simple in a time when the grocery industry and the delivery industries are experiencing record profits as we all stay home during COVID. And they're asking for a $1 raise, a $1 raise from a corporation that enjoys plenty of public tax benefits and giveaways. And it is frankly shocking and embarrassing that there is even a question here in giving these folks $1 an hour in a raise. They deserve it. They deserve to have their issue amplified. And the Teamsters 202 team out there has been doing incredible work.
All right. So this is fantastic. This is when you are somebody who is a more progressive left-wing member of Congress, and really right now your power is limited based on the numbers. The squad is only so big, and when it comes to the Senate, I mean, it's like Bernie Sanders, nobody else. So your power, in many cases, is really relegated to what you can do in terms of spotlighting different issues and rising up the voices of people who are in a fight like this. So let me give you a little more info actually on the strike itself. So this is from Teen Vogue, which, by the way, Teen Vogue does fantastic reporting. If you didn't know, check out a lot of the work that they oftentimes are deep into these issues. But they write here, the strike by a union representing about 1,400 workers is a big deal for anyone in New York who likes produce because, according to the WNYC, about 60% of produce that comes to the Big Apple goes through the Hunts Point produce market. WNYC reported on January 17th that NYPD and a private security firm would work to keep food operations normal. So this is a big deal right now. When there is limitations on the amount of power that workers have, when you have unions and you have them fighting to increase conditions, increase wages, it is vitally important for members of Congress or politicians who especially have a massive platform like AOC, like Bernie Sanders, who's also done this a number of times as well, to spotlight these various fights while also doing what they can, working within the walls of Washington to push legislation forward. Now, also during the strike, got to mention this because this warms my heart. Teamsters JC16 here tweets out 21 train cars of merchandise turned back at Hunts Point Market strike line. The locomotive engineer said, "We're Teamsters too. Turned the freight car around and headed back to Ohio. Union solidarity." This is amazing. When you have other unions, other workers joining with you in solidarity, this is how you develop your power and use your power to achieve great things. Now, one last thing here, just to give you an idea of where the Biden administration is right now in terms of workers' rights. So Biden is planning to sign executive orders boosting workers' rights and pushing for a $15 minimum wage for federal staff. So this really right now is the bare minimum in terms of the one aspect of this. So one would ensure people can still claim jobless benefits if they turn down a job that risks their health. So we're talking about right now the bare minimum. Joe Biden often is, self-describe or describes himself as somebody who is, a fighter for workers' rights, for unions. We're going to have to see because historically he's largely been on the side of corporate interests. But $15 minimum wage right now, as I keep saying, this is the bare minimum because this fight's been going on for 10 years. So at this point, we should begin discussing a little higher than 15, maybe 20. So yeah, this, while good to see, still is the bare minimum. But this is why it's important for people like AOC, Bernie Sanders, and others who align themselves with the workers' movement to not only use their power to try and push Biden and Democrats in the right direction on workers' rights issues, but also use their power to spotlight different fights going on around the country and, as a whole, uplifting unions and workers. All right. Okay. Now, let me grab some more chats before I get to the next story. Ryan Nowicki says, if corporate America stops funding Republicans because they don't disown Trump, how do you think that plays out? They could claim Dems take more corporate money, which would technically be true. So far, I'm not seeing this funding stop. There's, I guess, here and there you're seeing some of that money drop out, but ultimately they need the money to operate, because they ain't getting money from their support base. I mean, they're getting a little bit in terms of donations, but it's definitely not enough to support the entire GOP. So that money is going to be coming from somewhere, either corporate America, either billionaires, both, most likely, as it currently does. So I just don't see that money drying out. But of course, I mean, if under some scenario where it somehow did, where all corporate money stopped to Republicans, yeah, that would be a horrible thing that Democrats would have to deal with. The fact that they be the only party taking corporate money. Yeah, I agree with you. That would not look good, and it would not help to incite confidence in the party as a whole. So let's hope it doesn't come to that. But the reality is both parties still drowning in big dollar money, corporate money, billionaire money. And the only real recourse right now is to continue primarying members of Democratic leadership. So you've already seen it with Lacey Clay primaried by Cori Bush. You saw it with Elliot Engel primaried by Jamal Bowman, Joe Crowley primaried by AOC. You got to continue that project. That is definitely a big piece of it, because it's not just about changing the conversation. And there's obvious limitations when it comes to media appearances and joining picket lines and that kind of thing. People on the left in Congress, they need power. And the only way to gain power is to take out members of Democratic leadership that right now is stemming the ability for this progressive movement to push forward and actually push some real help to people. So primarying has to be the center focus for a lot of this fight when it comes to at least the political aspect, or the politics aspect of it. Of course, there's another aspect of it in terms of growing unions, workers' rights, and that sort of thing. But that also is limited by how much power they have based on who's in power in government and the limitations there on unions or on organizing. All right. Christo Avalis, what up, Christo? Says, congrats on the new little one. Biden still supports the filibuster, which shows how he wants the GOP to run the interference. Yeah, though I did see Chuck Schumer today. In fact, I saved this clip, but I didn't do a story on this. Let me see if I can bring this up. Again, also keeping in mind, Chuck Schumer is acutely aware that he may be facing a primary challenge if he doesn't show real fight. But here. So Majority Leader. Oh, here we go. Majority Leader Schumer rejects Minority Leader McConnell's demand to preserve the filibuster. So this is step one Schumer isn't saying for sure what the outcome will be with the filibuster, but he is at very least right now rejecting the demand to preserve it. So this is a quick clip. Let's just play this.
Leader McConnell's proposal is unacceptable, and it won't be accepted. And the Republican leader knew that when he first proposed it.
Unacceptable and won't be accepted, which is the same thing as saying unacceptable. But good. This is, again, always keep in mind, a big piece of this is how Schumer wants to appear to any potential future voters in a potential primary challenge. But regardless, if he's doing the right thing, if it's not just words, and he continues this fight, then good. Then regardless of a primary challenge or not, this sort of worry, this sort of pressure works. And this is why I think in some scenarios you're going to see a bit of a different Democratic Party now, because they are very aware that any of them can be primaried out from the left. When they saw their friends go down, they saw Joe Crowley, Elliot Engel, others, Lacey Clay go down. They're aware that, especially if you are in a position of leadership, there's a target on you in terms of a primary challenge. So you're going to see, at least in some cases, even if it's just rhetorically, which is not enough, but oftentimes rhetoric, when pushed on that rhetoric, leads to actual action. You're going to see a lot of these people be afraid of primaries and, in some cases, actually do the right thing. Narui says, did you hear about Trump wanting to make another party called the Patriot Party? Kyle Klinsky thinks it will destroy the GOP, so I'm completely for it. I heard of this. I watched the Morning Trap, Ben Dixon's morning show, and they talked about that. I hadn't read a story on it, but if this is true, if Trump is actually going to make the Patriot Party, that would be fantastic, because I completely agree with you. I think it would, or completely agree with Kyle. I think it would destroy the GOP. In fact, I'm not sure how it wouldn't. The only way that it wouldn't destroy the party is if the members of that party just go on to join Trump's party, which I think is very possible. At least half the base are just diehard Trumpers. So they're going to follow him wherever. And there's definitely, I think, less of an attachment to the Republican Party brand than there is compared to Trump. So if he makes his own party, the only potential downside there is that you get Republicans just switching affiliation to the Patriot Party, and it's the exact same thing now, only worse, because these fascists now actually have, I mean, they had the party. They do have the party already, but now you have them more emboldened, openly being what they are, more so within a Patriot Party. But in lieu of that happening, all it would do is split the vote. So yeah, you would get at least half of Republicans joining this or supporting this Patriot Party, supporting primary challenges, or just voting for this third party in elections, and ultimately hurting the GOP. But that's in the ideal scenario. So also we have to see if he even does. Trump is too lazy. Like, if this involves any work at all in his part, he's not going to do it. If he can hire people to do it and he has the money to do so, then he'll do it. But he's facing potential tax fraud charges, facing a mountain of debt. I don't know how much money or free time he really has to push something like a Patriot Party, but I guess that remains to be seen. Mr. Sir says Biden's administration already said they support the sanctions on Venezuela and Iran and support the oppression of Palestine with embassy in Jerusalem. Yeah, I did hear that they are not changing the embassy in Jerusalem. Also that they're supporting Juan Guaido. I did not see the position on Iran before the election. Biden was saying that he wants to get back into the Iran deal. I need to read up more to see what the status is on that. But yeah, when it comes to this is a major issue when it comes to American politics. Both parties are essentially completely in line on most things when it comes to foreign policy issues. The only thing I would say is that say Hillary won it in 2016. she would not have torn up the Iran deal. That was one of Obama's greatest achievements. In fact, I would say maybe his greatest achievement over 8 years was the Iran deal. She would not have torn that up. So that would have been, a potential benefit foreign policy wise, but who knows what she may have started that Trump didn't. So a lot of this, you can speculate all day. It's impossible to know how that administration would have differed. But you can't pretend like either party really excels in this area. Though obviously members of one party, Democratic Party, people like Bernie Sanders, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, they are a lot more vocal and on the correct side of these issues, whereas there was no portion of that in the GOP. They pretend to sometimes, like Rand Paul pretends to be anti-war sometimes, but in reality he's not. He goes along with everybody else when it comes to these votes. So there really is only a small faction of people in the Democratic Party that are actually more consistent and rational on these issues. Gina McGrath says, David Pakman mentioned you on a show recently and said you two DM each other. Yes, we have. Will we get some David on David collab some? You're both pretty hot. Thank you. Actually, David asked me about the mic situation. I think he changed mics, so I helped him with that. I know we have some disagreements on certain policy issues. I know certain foreign policy issues, definitely. But I respect his work. I assume he respects my work. Honestly, I just don't collab very often. My days are too busy already. I have definitely declined to be on certain shows, especially recently, since I just had a new baby. So my days are kind of unpredictable and wild. So I'm not honestly really down to be on anybody's show right now. Maybe in a few months. But for now, my days are pretty busy. Zombie loves Ert. Thank you for your super chat. Jack Bueno, thank you for your super chat. All right. Somebody just said, since I noticed in the Normie chat, Happy says, David, are you growing your hair longer? I'm not growing it longer as much as I'm just not cutting it, because we are in a pandemic and the numbers have shot up, and I'm not going to get my hair cut being within inches of somebody's face for 30 minutes as they cut my hair. So one day, maybe once I get vaccinated and the virus goes away, then I'll cut my hair. But I don't think it'll ever be as short as I once had it. Just because I think it would look weird now. If I went back to really short hair, I think it would just look odd. All right. What is next? Let me check my notes here. Yes. All right. This is a great story. I will be right back with one of my favorite stories of the day. As I prep this, talk amongst yourselves. Back. What's up? Let me let me start this next story. Then I'll grab all the chats, and I think I have 2 unprepared stories next, but I don't think they take much preparation, so I think I'll just do those as well afterward. But here we go. An illustration dripping with satire flew right past Tim Pool's beanie. This is one incredible clip. So before I get to the clip, I have to show you what it's about. It is about this cover art on the new issue of Jacobin called Biden Our Time, out soon. And here it is showing Joe Biden satirically as Jesus Christ, surrounded by Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. You got Hillary, Obama, Bill Clinton, the media, like bowing down to him. The people love him. This is a joke. I think it's obvious it's a joke. Jacobin is a socialist magazine. Joe Biden is a neoliberal. These do not align. But apparently Tim Pool did 25 minutes on this and thought it was serious. Let me play this for you, courtesy of Tim Pool Clips. Great account on Twitter. Follow them if you need to see more hilarity from Tim Pool, but here we go.
And we'll talk about Joe Biden being president and this glorious image from Jacobin magazine. Now, I'll tell you what I find particularly fascinating about this is Jacobin is like socialist, like their DSA. There's like communism. They get their name from the French Revolution.
Here for the live audience, when I edit these videos, I always put this full screen, but it's just sometimes a pain in the ass to get me off the screen to do this. But since Tim Pool is small in the corner, I will do this for you. Once I figure out, okay, I think I know how to do this.
And we'll talk about Joe Biden being president and this glorious image from Jacobin magazine. Now, I'll tell you what I find particularly fascinating about this is Jacobin is like socialist, like their DSA. There's like communism. They get their name from the French Revolution, and they've put a cover out, and it's Joe Biden as Jesus with the sun behind his head, literally imagery of Jesus, and there are people below him like looking up and cheering and worshiping him. And there's angels filming and interviewing him. What are these people thinking?
Stop with this obsession with putting people above yourself and putting all of the responsibilities and all your failures and all your hopes into one person and take some gosh darn personal responsibility for yourself.
But when you have a media ecosystem that is acting like Joe Biden is literally Jesus, then I don't see how we actually solve problems. Just to clarify my point, Joe Biden could do really horrible things and they don't care. But it's funny because they say the same thing about, Donald Trump. Yeah. This is people worshiping Jesus Biden who hasn't done anything. Nothing. What did he do?
He defeated the devil. Reid up against the wall.
Yeah, he defeated the devil. There you go. The evil Trump.
Yeah.
All right. This is absurd. It's just, I don't know how you do not understand that this is obviously satire. I mean, then again, he also thought that the circle behind Joe Biden's head was the sun. It's called a halo. But okay, it's the sun. A lot of people have the sun behind their heads here. Now, let me show you some of the reactions. So first, Jacobin quote tweeted this saying, Tim Pool, citizen journalist. Tim Pool Clips here follows up saying, what's most amazing is that Tim Pool claims to be a satire expert, but can't detect obvious satire when it's right in front of him. So this is a series of tweets from 2020. He says here, oh, now, come on. I assume this was this one obviously a joke, but fine, F it. It's an IQ test now, and these effing idiots failed. All right, boys, start screenshotting the responses that took this tweet seriously. Twitter is better than any IQ test. It's an IQ test. I'm going to take all the tweets laughing at it and all the tweets shocked by it and then separate by political tribe and graph it out. Anyways, Tim Pool, believes himself to be a satire expert. But more reactions here. Some of his viewers understood this. So response here, LMAO, even Tim's fans get that it is satire. Tim has officially become dumber than his fans. So here's some comments here. Is that image not satire? Must be. It's satire, Tim. Ian on that good crank again. All right. Probably didn't need to read that one. Last one here. Just a little reminder of what the right did with Donald Trump over the past 4 years. This is one image, but there are countless images of him with Jesus Christ, him being depicted as a deity in some way. He's God, he's Jesus, or he's with Jesus. This is one of those examples. Go and try and find a video of Tim Pool doing 30 minutes on how ridiculous this is. You're not going to find that video. Tim Pool knows his audience. He may not know satire, but he knows his audience. And his audience is far right-wing reactionary. That's his audience. And I would, if you want to know more about Tim Pool, I suggest look up Vosh debating Tim Pool. Vosh joined Tim Pool for debate a few months ago. It was fantastic. So check that out. And you know, in that debate though, Tim Pool, I think kind of he doesn't go as far out as he normally does. I think because he understood who he was dealing with. Vosh came with the facts. He couldn't mess around there too much. But it's a fantastic breakdown of essentially how Tim Pool's arguments, how his thought process just fall apart under just the slightest bit of criticism. But even apart from that, this should tell you really all you need to know about Tim Pool. Okay. I don't cover these characters very often, but man, that video. I will cover it if it's funny. If it's funny, I will cover it. If it's, you know, people trying to incite violence or some shit, I'm going to ignore that. But if it's funny and we can laugh at these people, then I will cover it. Let me grab some chats. I'm not sure if I mentioned your name before, but Jack Bueno, thank you for the super chat. Rhino Wiki says, do you think a progressive running under a Republican ticket as a Justice Republican to primary individuals would work to get rid of some Republican Congress representatives? Why not just run as a Justice Democrat? I don't really know. I don't think that's all that. There would be no point to it because you would have no power within the GOP. There's at least a growing power base within the Democratic Party of Justice Dems where you can pool your power, pool your votes to push for some progressive legislation. But anybody who would be somehow be a progressive Republican or a Republican in name only, and they're actually a Justice Democrat, it's a little too in the weeds for me. It's a little too out there. Let's get back to basics. Primary out Democratic leadership. There's no reason to try and play games with the process. Just be who you are in the party where it makes sense. Douglas B says federal minimum wage isn't just for federal workers. That Business Insider article appeared to say otherwise in terms of what Joe Biden's executive order is capable of doing. Yes, you can change the federal minimum wage, but I think in terms of executive orders, it's different. So let me bring that back up, though, just to double check what it said there. Yeah, so in the context of Biden's executive order, pushing for a $15 minimum wage for federal staff. So that's the limitation on his executive order. It does, as they say here, pave the way for legislation on Biden's promise of $15 an hour. But in terms of the limitations of his executive order, he can only control what federal workers make. All right. Mistiff 1976 says, I know it's USD, but it's under Biden now. It's a lot cleaner. Thanks, bro. Have watched you for the last 2 years. You've been a calm voice in a storm. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Let me quickly prep. In fact, I may not even need to really prep this. I can do it right here. It's 2 clicks. It's going to be a little flashback back in time to a year ago. And anyways, I'll properly intro this. All right. I want to take you back to 1 year ago today. Today being January 22nd. This is Donald Trump. Maybe the last time I ever play a clip of Donald Trump, but it's a flashback clip. Donald Trump discussing COVID-19. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to play this, and then we'll get to the how the numbers look right now.
The CDC has identified a case of coronavirus in Washington state, the Wuhan strain of this. If you remember SARS, that affected GDP, travel-related effects. Have you been briefed by the CDC?
I have.
Are there words about a pandemic at this point?
No, we're not at all, and we have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China, and we have it under control. It's going to be just fine.
The CDC has.
All right. What do I have to say to this? We have it totally under control. One person coming in from China. Yeah. Now we are at 400,000 Americans dead. I honestly, I've lost track of the I'm going to check. I'm trying to check in front of me right now the full-on numbers. Here we go. From the CDC. Because I've lost track of how many total cases. So 24 million. 24 million, over 24 million total cases. 408,000 plus total deaths. Now, yes, of course, nobody knew at the time how bad it was going to be. But there were indications in January that lawmakers were being told that this is serious, to the point that you had lawmakers sell off stock because they knew it was going to hit the economy. So people that were in the know behind the scenes were aware of how serious it may be, even though at the time you had leaders, Trump, of course, being the major piece of this, not taking this seriously and continuing. I mean, this was just, the beginning of it for the next several months, really up until the election, and even past that, downplaying COVID-19. And that's the result of it. Now, when you compare U.S. numbers to other countries, when it comes to the UK, it's right in line. The UK has done horribly, in large part because of the new variant now, that is even more contagious than before. But U.S. number, this, as I've discussed before when I've covered these numbers, this is like a seventh wave now. So this is, I'm not sure if I said, daily new confirmed COVID-19 cases per million people, the rolling 7-day average. Canada's numbers have recently, I guess, come down a little bit, but they're still not looking good. Australia, pretty much flatlined here. And I mean, I can bring up other countries. The only country that's really done fantastic in terms of their population and how they've controlled it is, I would say, Vietnam. And we're talking about Vietnam. They have a large border with China, 95 million people, And they took this seriously from the start. They went above and beyond the World Health Organization recommendations. They did contact tracing to the fourth degree. They would completely wipe down, clean any area where you had people there with COVID-19. So they took immediate and monumental steps to preventing the spread of COVID-19, and they've only had 35 deaths. And from last I saw, that number hasn't changed since the fall. So they've only had 35 deaths, only 1,000 or so cases altogether, and yeah, just showing you that there is another way to do this. There was another way to take this seriously. They separated public health from the economy. They understood that regardless of how this impacts the economy in the short term, public health is our complete focus right now. And now their economy is doing great because they actually took this seriously from the start. Sure, they took a hit at the beginning, but they took it seriously. Numbers didn't get out of control, and that's where they are. The rest of the world, obviously a little different. And right now, we're really just waiting for the lifeline. That is the vaccine. And to be fair to the U.S. rollout right now, which has been horrible with the vaccine, Canada just as terrible. Now we're expected to not have the vaccine available to everyone until August. There is a 3-phase process in Canada. The first phase, obviously, you want to get frontline, or you want to get healthcare workers. I'm not sure if frontline workers are in that, but they should be in that. But healthcare workers for sure. The elderly, anybody who's in long-term care homes are prioritized, of course. But to not have a vaccine readily available for everyone until August, that's a little insane. We have the ability to mass produce this vaccine. We have the ability to have stadiums where people can go in and get the vaccine. But because of the limitations, part of it, limitations when it comes to the capitalism and who controls the patent when it comes to the vaccine and who can produce it and who can't produce it, that's a part of the issue. But another part of the issue is just that these countries are trying to balance what they think is the economy with public health, and that's the result of it. Okay. I have one more clip, maybe, since I saved it, but I have not watched it. But I do trust Case Study QB who clipped this. So we'll check it out in a bit. But let me see if there are any more chats. Majestic Rain says, and ... Not sure what that's about, but thank you. The Politicker says, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Canada's single payer start in Saskatchewan and other provinces adopted? Should U.S. lefties focus pressure on states? Yes, you are correct. But it was a different time. The only states where I'm confident that a single payer system would be successful is California and New York, and that's largely based on the wealth generated in those states. I think there's enough people there, enough wealth created there that you could easily bring in a single payer system, and it may work in other states as well. But I guess my issue always is, why split the fight right now? Why not push to get? I feel like Medicare for all is, in my opinion, the easiest way to get to Medicare for all, to get to healthcare for everyone. Because if you start trying to split this fight, state by state by state, it becomes too excuse me, it becomes too convoluted, and there's too many moving pieces. I think it's just easier to, Medicare for all is just expanding Medicare. That's all it is. Expanding Medicare in terms of what ages get it, what ages don't. So Medicare for all, everyone gets it. So yes, obviously, it takes more work than that, but I think focusing the fight there, to me, makes the most sense. Just because it was done one way in Canada, 60 years ago, doesn't mean that that's necessarily the best way to do it in the U.S. right now. But I'm open to different arguments. Corey S. says, happy about Keystone XL being canceled. Sad about the upcoming Canada-U.S. war. Here, use my Minnesota money to feed your kid. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. I will. I need it. Our kid eats a lot. So definitely need the money. Yeah, so if you have no idea what Corey's talking about, I did a video earlier on Canadian premiers wanting to go to war, quote unquote, with the U.S. and Joe Biden over the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline. In their terms, they mean go to war, economic sanctions, trade war. Completely insane. These are people like Jason Kenney of Alberta who put a bet on a new pipeline and didn't work out. He put a bet on a pipeline that he knew had risks, that Obama had already canceled before Trump restarted it. The Alberta government is completely insane. Way too married to oil. I mean, obviously, there's an obvious reason for that. A lot of their economy is based on that. But you have to understand that we are moving towards the end of fossil fuels. We are phasing out fossil fuels. We need to do that for the future of humanity. So there has to be a real investment into renewable energy, a real investment into just any other industry that is actually growing. But to invest a new piece of fossil fuel infrastructure in the year 2021, it makes absolutely no sense. But that's what you get with the Conservative Party in Alberta. All right, gonna stop there. Let me see. Let me check out. My stomach is rumbling. I definitely need to eat dinner soon. But it's an early dinner though, 4:30. I guess I didn't eat enough for lunch, but that's fine. Let me check out this clip. So this is Jim Clyburn. I have not watched this, but out of curiosity, and my throat is very dry. Out of curiosity, let's watch this together. I'm thinking how I should intro this, having not watched the clip. Maybe just Clyburn was on CNN discussing progressives. I think that's what I'll do. All right. After essentially handing Joe Biden the primary victory of, no, let me start over again. After essentially handing Joe Biden the Democratic nomination, Jim Clyburn on CNN, and of course, going on to win the presidency, Jim Clyburn on CNN discussing the views of progressives. So this is a clip here put out by Case Study QB. Case Study QB, check him out on Twitter. Always puts out these fantastic hidden gems of what's going on in mainstream media. Let's check out what Clyburn had to say here.
Congressman, it's great to see you on this day. So what do you say when progressives, and I know a lot of progressives feel this way, they say, you know what, the Republicans are not going to go along. They're not going to vote for a path to citizenship, for the undocumented, for example. They're not going to vote for sweeping climate change. Why is Joe Biden even going to try on these issues? What do you say to them?
Well, that remains to be seen. I would not make assumptions that past history will be an indicator of how people are going to conduct themselves this time. We have to lay out our proposals, give them the opportunity to participate, and if they don't, vote anyway. I think many of these things, especially as it relates to immigration issues, do you want them to be bipartisan? If they're not, we just have to go ahead and do them.
And there's a lot, Congressman, it's great to see you on this day.
I don't think I understood what the hell just happened. I would comment on this if I understood what he was trying to say. I know a lot of progressives feel this way. They say, you know what, Republicans are not going to go along. They are not going to vote for a path to citizenship, sweeping climate change. Why is Joe Biden even going to try on these issues? So is he trying to say why bother fighting for these issues if they're not going to get the votes for them? Let's listen to this one more time, see if this makes any more sense. And I'm going to turn the volume up.
Congressman, it's great to see you on this day. So what do you say when progressives, and I know a lot of progressives feel this way, they say, you know what, the Republicans are not going to go along. They're not going to vote for a path to citizenship, for the undocumented, for example. They're not going to vote for sweeping climate change. Why is Joe Biden even going to try on these issues? What do you say to them?
Well, that remains to be seen. I would not make assumptions that past history will be an indicator of how people are going to conduct themselves this time. We have to lay out our proposals, give them the opportunity to participate, and if they don't, vote anyway. I think many of these things, especially as it relates to immigration issues, do you want them to be bipartisan? If they're not, we just have to go ahead and do them.
And there's a lot, Congressman, it's great.
I've been talking the whole time on mute. All right. It's okay. Basically, I don't really know what he's saying here anyways. I think he's trying to say that if there is, if they don't have the support from Republicans, then to try and push through using something like budget reconciliation. Now, he didn't say this, but clearly, in order to get anything through, you have to be able to work around Republicans. So either through that or getting rid of the filibuster. There are various ways that Democrats can push things through without needing Republican support. I assume maybe that's what Clyburn's saying here, but it's not really clear. But yeah, anyways, and whenever I see Clyburn on TV or anywhere, it just reminds me of what could have been if he didn't back Joe Biden. I don't want to go down that hole. All right. Yes, I see. It's funny. All the chats come in because there's like a minute delay on this. I see everyone telling me I'm on mute a minute later. It would have been helpful if I had the settings here a little differently, but it's fine. Not important anyways. Let me grab some chats and I'll be on my way. Larissa Linman says, enjoy your new baby and have learned so much your political wisdom at age 74. Wow. Thank you so much, Larissa. Much appreciated. All right. People are still saying muted while others are saying the audio is good now. I think I'm fine. All right. Let me grab some other regular chats before I go on and eat dinner. Now I got to scroll all the way up past all the comments saying I'm muted to find some comments. Or I'll just stick down here. RTube says seeing Clyburn makes me feel bitter. I hear you. Blade Thomas says Biden signed some really good orders today, bro. Yeah, there's actually a lot been going on, a lot happening over the past couple days. I've definitely missed a lot. I have to check some of his executive orders. I read that he was going to do a couple of worker related executive orders, but if there is a quick breakdown somewhere, here we go. Perfect. Thank you, CNN. This seems like a easy breakdown here. 30 executive orders and actions Biden signed in his first 3 days. Here we go. Let's go through some of this. How is this? What am I doing here? Okay, let me go small and do this. It'll be easier. Small with the chat. All right. Here we go. So, topic economy. Reversal, yes. Restores collective bargaining power. My throat is so dry right now. I may have to get a drink if I'm going to keep talking. Don't worry, not COVID. Just the air in Canada is so dry during the winter. Like, you would not believe. My skin cracks from how dry it is. All right. So restores collective bargaining power and worker protections for federal workers and lays the foundation for $15 minimum wage. So this was what I discussed earlier. Passes $15 an hour for federal workers. I guess this counts as laying the foundation for a federal minimum wage. But so that's one. I'm not sure why that's in bold when nothing else is. But so also calls for assistance to those who are struggling to buy food, missed out on stimulus checks, or are unemployed. Accelerates manufacturing and delivery of supplies for vaccination, testing, and personal protective equipment, but does not increase the actual production of the vaccinations. I'm not sure if that's something that would be under his control, but I'm not sure why, if it can be, why he wouldn't push for that as well. But still, obviously good to see. Directs FEMA to expand reimbursement to states to fully cover the cost for National Guard personnel and emergency supplies. Establishes a pandemic testing board to expand U.S. coronavirus testing capacity. Really, anything done on coronavirus is good because there's a lot, obviously, that needed to be done under Trump that was not done. So a lot of these here relate to coronavirus. Preclinical program to boost development and therapeutics in response to pandemic threats. Sounds good. Enhances nation's collection, production, sharing, and analysis of coronavirus data. Always good to have more data. Directs FEMA to create federally supported community vaccination centers. Good. Directs the Department of Education and HHS to provide guidance for safely reopening and operating schools. This I am not so clear about. I get that Biden's argument to reopen schools is that we got to get people back to work, but do you? You can still financially take care of people with proper financial support and ensure that they are home, isolated, safe, and kids can go to school online. And anyone that doesn't have the internet or doesn't have a computer, bring in help for those individuals to be able to take part in online learning. So I don't, like, I get it. Kids don't really get sick for the most part from the virus, though some do, but for the most part. But they can still spread it. I don't know how reopening schools limits the ability for COVID to spread. More coronavirus ones here. Calls on Occupational Safety and Health Administration to release clear guidance on COVID-19. Decide whether to establish emergency temporary standards, and directs OSHA to enforce worker health and safety requirements. Requires mask wearing in airports and on certain modes of transportation, including many trains, airplanes, maritime vessels, and intercity buses. International travelers must provide proof of a negative COVID-19 test prior to coming to the U.S. This is all great. Anyways, I'm not going to read all these, but these all make sense to me. Again, anything on COVID is a good idea. Why are some bold? Is the reason is because they're reversals? I guess so. So anything in bold appears to be a reversal. So stops the U.S. withdrawal from World Health Organization. Yes, because that's right. Trump pulled out of that. This is great. Extends the existing nationwide moratorium on evictions and foreclosures until at least March 31st. I thought it went till September. Oh no, that's the student loans. So extends existing pause on student loan payments and interest for Americans with federal student loans until at least September 30th. He should also be pushing to cancel student debt. Bernie's pushing for all student debt to be canceled. Chuck Schumer was pushing him to, and Chuck Schumer and Warren pushing Biden to cancel $50,000 of student debt, and Biden was saying $10,000. Why not just all of it? Like this, it would be a massive boost to the economy, freeing people up to be able to then put their money back into the economy if they're not paying back student debt. It would be massively beneficial. But of course, any actual help to people is always going to be a major fight. Rejoins Paris Climate Accord, of course. Cancels Keystone XL, of course. Rescinds Trump's administration's 1776 commission, directs agencies to review their actions to ensure racial equity, prevents workplace discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. Okay. Fortifies DACA. A lot of these I've already read about because, yeah, these were day ones. So a lot of these I think most of you are aware of. But yeah, when it comes to today, it was on restoring collective bargaining power and worker protections for federal workers and lays the foundation for $15 an hour. So still, of course, there's always going to be a lot more that needs to get done. But in terms of, you know, how low expectations are and have been for Joe Biden, he is doing a lot. And especially when it comes to COVID, I mean, that is really the clear difference when it comes to the approach on the pandemic. You have Trump and the administration not even really believing in science. And then you have Democrats that, at the very least, I know it's a low bar, but at the very least, believe in science and listen to scientists when it comes to a lot of this. But then, of course, ignores the science when it comes to, you know, guaranteeing health care for all. So there are definite serious gaps in their response, but still, I think a clear improvement. All right. If I can get through, if my throat can get through these last two super chats. Eric I says, horrible framed question by CNN. No, quote, progressives are saying this. By the way, you need a producer. I do and I don't. I like producing my own stuff. So that's the downside of having a producer. I like being in full control. Like I like having the switcher in front of me. I like switching cameras, all that stuff. But I hear you. It would definitely free up some time. Louis Denoya says, belated congratulations on the new baby. Have a drink on me. I will right after this stream. Thanks for continuing the great work. Thank you, Louis. And I believe I am now done. Let me grab some Normie chats and then get out of here. The Idolin says, how do you get your first few followers / views on YouTube? Looking to get started. You just have to be, it's very tough, especially now with the way that YouTube is set up. If anything, honestly, I would say maybe start on Twitch. I think it could be easier for new people to gain a following on Twitch. But really, ultimately, it's about being consistent. If you're consistent, you do good work, share your content out there, make sure you're on Twitter or Facebook or wherever to help share your content. If you do consistently good work, you're going to get noticed. It just takes a while, especially now. But if you have a perspective that you think people want to hear and you put out quality, informed pieces, then you'll find an audience. Let's see what else here. David has multiple cameras? No, I don't. I meant in terms of changing the, like when I go from here to here or to here. That's what I meant. Can you imagine I had a second camera? I'm not sure there'd be a point. Just, hey, now I want a side angle of my face. I don't think that would be ridiculous. Looking at some more Normie chats before I get out of here. Scrolling up for something. Caitlin H says 10K doesn't even cover interest. Yeah, I mean, it depends on your student loan, but Yeah, of course 10K is measly. All right. Yeah. Somebody said muted, and you got me once again. I checked down to make sure I was not muted. Now you're just messing with me. All right. Not sure if I'm seeing anything else that's worth discussing here. Anyways, what I will say after I get off here, I'm going to Maria says David looks like he needs rest, honestly. I do need a little rest for sure. I'm up at least twice a night. That's the norm when it comes to having a newborn. But of course, my partner's doing a lot of work right now as well, as she's home from work taking care of the child. So luckily, I have quite a bit of help here. But still, up twice a night. Your body adjusts, though. Like, I thought getting less sleep would annoy me more, as usually if I don't sleep well, I'm going to be in a miserable mood that day, but I've been fine. I've been getting less sleep, but it hasn't really impacted my mood, which is great. But I think part of that is just because I'm so happy to have a child. So just it doesn't really affect your mood in a negative way. All right. I think we're good here. Thank you all for showing up. Of course, if you missed anything during this live stream, segments will be clipped out over the weekend, and I will be, of course, back on Monday with some new stuff, new content. Thank you all for showing up, and again, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon. You have to hit both. YouTube, of course, oftentimes will not notify you or will not notify you if you don't hit the bell icon. So hit the bell icon to know when a video or a live stream goes up. And if you can, of course, support the show, hit the join button or rationalnational.com/join. Links below the video. Support the show. Help me do this work. And once again, thank you all. I'll be back next week. Goodbye.